Hello, how are you guys? This time I actually made it out on time, so thanks for being here. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate, and Happy New Year to all of you. We're going to get started in about a minute. Just want to wait for some more people to come on, and then I will introduce myself and start answering questions. I'm just going through the screen right now to see the questions that come up. See if I can get some answers to some of them for you. I already see a lot of good questions. Okay, well, it's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to start. So hello, everyone. My name is Aimee Nieves. I am an OCD advocate. Lived with OCD for about 32 years now. A lot of you might know me as Obsessively Anxious on Instagram. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to start answering questions. I'm going to be on here for about 45 minutes to an hour, so I will get to them as much as I can. And keep in mind, I also have another Q&A scheduled for January 18th at the same time, so put that in your calendar. Okay, that sounds really conceited. Okay. Why does the way the thoughts come in change so much? It goes from you're changing to you're in denial to you like this, and you know this is the truth, etc. Is this another OCD trap? Okay, so the first thing is maybe it's an OCD trap, maybe it isn't. You really do have to sit with the uncertainty on that one. Unfortunately, I don't provide reassurance ever, even to myself. The only thing I could say to you is that thoughts can come in any form. It can come in as commands. It could come in as you're this, you're that, you must be. You know you like this, or you know this is your truth. It doesn't matter what form it's coming in. It's really all still the same. It's a string of words. So the less attention you pay to it, the less overtaking it will have on your life. Really, the only thing that you need to do is calm down your reaction to what the thoughts are saying, because, like, you know what, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I don't need to figure this out right now. So I hope that helped a little bit. How do you stop the dialogue in your head? Notice it and turn your attention. I'm a little confused about what you mean by dialogue. Do you mean by like your own voice in your head? I mean, if you're on here, if you could just reiterate what you mean, that way I can make sure I'm answering it correctly. What should I do when I cannot figure something out or cannot remember something? Then this makes me have anxiety. I get scared and I hate it. Thankfully, I can sleep and feel better. That makes me so sad. I'm so sorry that you have to go through that. Not everything needs to be figured out. As you go through life, and I'm almost 40, I have less and less memory retaining in my mind. And yes, sometimes it really does make me anxious, because I'm like, what if I forgot something? What if I forgot something really important? Or what if I did something and I don't remember? I really just have to sit with who I am as a person and know that I'm always going to act according to my values. You can't remember everything. You can't control a lot of stuff. And really, this is all just a sense of you trying to regain control of a situation that is out of your hands. Are dreams a part of OCD? Because I sometimes wake up feeling very anxious. Absolutely. Excuse me. So unfortunately, OCD is a very big part of our lives. We think about it all the time. It's always there, even when we're not actively thinking about it, it is always still there. So think about a TV show that you watched last week, or about a conversation you had with a family member today. It could be in your dreams, but the only reason why it's in your dreams is because it's such a huge part of your life. Like I said, unfortunately, just like thoughts, dreams mean nothing. We have no more control over our dreams than we have over our thoughts, we have over our intrusive images. Doesn't matter what it is. What I do is when I have a OCD dream, I use the next morning as a way to practice my exposure response prevention. I have the choice to try not to figure it out. Because if I try to, then I'm going to end up going down a rabbit hole to try to figure out what it means, when in reality, it doesn't mean anything. All that nonsense, humble jumbo about dreams mean something. They don't mean anything. I'm just trying to find a question to answer. I'm in ERP, but feel like I've taken a lot of steps back and just hanging out in the same place as things around me have gotten stressful. How do I get going again? Okay, first of all, I'm sending so much love to you. I feel like your pain in the way that you wrote this. ERP is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult, especially in the beginning. That's why a lot of people take medication. I'm not pushing medication on anyone, nor am I advising someone to not take medication. But a lot of times what happens is that people take medication to calm down the intrusiveness of the thoughts during ERP, because it can be very intense and the anxiety can be extremely intensified. So you may feel like you're taking a lot of steps back because you're anxious all the time, but that's actually what ERP is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you anxious. It's supposed to make you feel like you can't sit with the uncertainty, but you have to. A lot of things in the world right now are really stressful. I've been in recovery for over 2 years now, and I find myself extremely stressed out. I was just saying to my husband today that I feel like I'm anxious all the time. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's causing it, but I'm just anxious. So please give yourself some grace and make sure that you remember that, you're doing what you can in ERP. You're in ERP. You can't, I'm not saying you expect it to be easy, but it's a very hard road. And once you get to where you need to be with your exposures, you will feel a lot of relief, but just give yourself some time. What about real event OCD? When you really have done something you are not proud of. It happened during a traumatic time in my life. I have been forgiven, but cannot forgive myself. Honey, we've all been somewhere where we did something that we are not proud of. You beating yourself up relentlessly is not going to change what happened. It is not going to make you feel any better about yourself. All it's going to do is make you spiral down and make you it can make you hate yourself, because you're sitting there ruminating on something that happened years ago, maybe even months ago. You said here that you've been forgiven. That's fantastic. So that person has forgiven you. You need to start learning how to forgive yourself. You need to teach yourself some self-compassion and some grace, because we're not perfect. None of us are. So by sitting there and saying, well, I'm a horrible person because I did this, you made a mistake. You need to forgive yourself for that. The most effective treatment, what's the most effective treatment now for OCD? The most effective treatment is exposure response prevention. So for anyone who doesn't know, exposure response prevention basically takes your fears, it exposes you to them. The response to them is sitting with the anxiety and letting yourself feel anxious. And that is the prevention for OCD. It's terrifying, but it works. So I will give you a perfect example. With schizophrenia OCD, that was one of my main things. I was terrified of developing schizophrenia. So for my exposure, I would watch documentaries about developing schizophrenia or people that had schizophrenia, active hallucinations, psychosis. they were hearing voices, and I had to sit with the anxiety. I was a wreck, but I sat with it. I didn't compulse. I didn't do any reassurance seeking. And now that theme is basically gone in the wind for me. So that's basically what it is. Pure OCD. What is the most effective against this type of OCD? I am not so much prone to compulsions, although sometimes, but it's just a constant stream of awful thoughts. Okay, so pure OCD is more along the lines of mental compulsions. A constant stream of awful thoughts is you labeling them as awful thoughts. Recovery, and I know you guys are probably so bloody sick of hearing me say this, but recovery is not the absence of thoughts. So you having a stream of awful thoughts does not mean that you have pure OCD. Pure OCD is when it's purely mental compulsions, which is what I have. Everything is in my mind. You having thoughts is just you being a human being. I'm not saying you don't have OCD. If you've been diagnosed or in the process, then, you get the proper help. But you having those streams of awful thoughts, or what you categorize them as, it's just a stream of thoughts in your head and you seem to be bothered by them. That's really all that it is. The most effective treatment, pure OCD, mental compulsions, physical compulsions, is always ERP. And just making sure. There's a lot of questions that are the same. So how can one go about not picking other people's themes, fears, compulsions, i.e. living with them? So we are always afraid of the contagious factor. I actually was for so long, I wouldn't have sex with my husband because I was afraid I would pick up a theme while we were making love. Or I wouldn't watch a movie because I was afraid that I'd pick up a harm theme. Or, you wouldn't want to watch a movie that, like The Matrix, because you're afraid of picking up an existential theme. You cannot avoid life because you're afraid of triggers. Triggers are going to be everywhere. If you stop and wait for every trigger to go away in your life, you're not going to have a life to live because you're going to be stuck in the house, agoraphobic, because you're afraid to go anywhere. I was at that point. I was at the point where I was so afraid to leave my house because I would have a panic attack. I was afraid of having a panic attack in public. I was afraid of me being triggered while I was going out. Can't live like that. That's just, you have to stand up and not let this beast win. I've been doing ERP for other OCD types and I've gotten better, but this past week I've had false memory thoughts 24/7. I've never had them. Okay. I don't really like to label the OCD themes because it's more as a community sense, just so that way we know what others are going through. It doesn't matter what the thought contains. Once OCD sees that you're losing, it's like losing pressure with one theme, it's going to jump to another one, and then it's going to jump to another one, and then it's going to jump to another one. It doesn't matter what the theme is. It doesn't matter what it contains, who it contains, what it's about, where it's about, who it attacks. It's all the same thing. You treat it with ERP. You treat it with no rumination, no compulsions, no reassurance. You sit with it and say, you know what? I've always lived according to my values. OCD is never going to change that. I've been struggling with intrusive thoughts often. I get stressed from them. Any advice? Sit with it. You have to sit with it. You can't try to figure out why it's happening or what is causing them. You are a human being with a brain. They're not going to go away. The only thing that's going to change is that you're not going to be bothered by them as much. How do you stop rumination? What if you don't know what your values are? Okay. When you get off this call, I want you to sit down and I want you to make a list of what is important to you in this world. I want you to list qualities about yourself that you love. That's what your values are. How do you stop rumination? I am not going to lie. I sometimes still don't know how I did it. It's so hard because you get sucked into it and it feels almost automatic because you're like, okay, I'll give you an example. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll have an intrusive thought. And then I'll say to myself, oh my God, did I think that purposely? And I'll be like, oh my God, what if I did think that purposely? What does that mean about me? But I'll be doing all this in my head. And before I know it, 25 minutes have gone by. And I'm like, where the hell, what did I just do here? You just have to be like, once you catch yourself, you have to be like, okay, I need to bring myself back into this moment. Everything is fine. I'm okay. Oh, sorry, I meant to click. Sorry. 1 second. That remark was to this comment. That was really a good point. Can you explain cheating, OCD, false memory? I am scared of what if I'm pregnant and it is not my boyfriend's. I didn't have a period. Okay, honey, the memory stops when the doubt begins. If you did something, you would have remembered. You would have told your boyfriend the very next morning or that night. It just doesn't burn up out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It's just, I understand that it's scary and that, you might be thinking, what if I deceived him? What if I cheated on him? What if the baby's not his? This is not, not the baby. I'm sorry. Like, what if you're pregnant? Okay. If you're pregnant, that's wonderful. But you would have remembered if you cheated on him. I mean, you're not going to remember 4 weeks later. It doesn't happen like that. Hi, Amy. I suffer from harm OCD where I keep thinking I'm going to get people sick, especially with COVID. Any tips? I feel like so many are struggling with this right now. Same. So you can only do what you can, honey. I don't know if, where you live or anything and how strict the mask mandates are there, but here where I am, it is not strict at all. I wear a mask wherever I go. You can only do that. I'm not sure if you believe in the vaccinations. That is not my place. But if you feel comfortable getting vaccinated, if you don't feel comfortable getting vaccinated, I'm not sure, but you have to do what's best for you and your family. And that's the decision that only you can make. Wear your mask outside, wash your hands often, but you can only do so much. If your family gets sick, you just have to say to yourself, you know what, I did everything I can. I'm not going to go on a rant here, but I'll give you a little insight of where I am. So I'm vaccinated, my husband's vaccinated, and my 2 kids are vaccinated. I feel a little safer, not much, especially with everything that's going on in the media right now. My best friend, she is not vaccinated. Her husband's not vaccinated, and their 3 children are not vaccinated. And, she feels safe, but, kind of on the same level with me, kind of, but not really. Because there's so much stuff going on in the media right now, you never really know what to believe. So, I tell her the same thing and she tells me the same thing. We just have to do what's best for our families, and that's the best that we can do. You protect them as much as you can, and the rest is out of your control. How do you accept living with OCD? I will never recover. Feel like this forever. How do you find acceptance? Okay. I feel like there's a huge misconception about what acceptance is. So I'm going to explain it really quick. So first of all, I'm going to answer each question. How do you accept living with OCD? What other choice do I have? I either learn how to deal with it or I live my life in misery. There is no other way about it. OCD is lifelong. You have it for the rest of your life, but there are days, and I think last week, like every single day, I completely forgot I had OCD. It popped up a little bit on New Year's when I started drinking, but trying to get into false memories and all that nonsense. But acceptance. By accepting the thought, by accepting, you're not accepting the content of the thoughts. What you're doing is accepting that you have a brain, and as a human being that has a brain, you accept that you have thoughts, and you accept that they're always going to be there, and that isn't the problem. The problem is the reaction that you're having to those thoughts. So once you realize that accepting the things that are going on in your mind doesn't mean you're accepting what they're saying. All it's doing is saying, you know what? I accept that this is just a part of life, that I'm going to have thoughts, and I'm okay with that. That doesn't mean anything about me as a human being, because everyone has thoughts. The only difference is the way that I'm reacting to them, and that's what I need to work on changing. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to. Can apathy be a form of ERP? Not that I'm aware of, but I'm not a therapist, so I'm not really sure about that, honey. This is just in reiteration to one of the questions. I know I would remember, but it's such a bad feeling. I'm sure it's a very bad feeling, but you have to sit with the uncertainty, because you continuing to try to question it is going to make it stronger. Okay, this is a great question. I'm starting Prozac, but I'm too scared to take the first pill because I don't want to change my personality. Okay. First of all, I'm very proud of you for going to the doctors and even trying medication. That's wonderful. I think almost every single person with OCD is scared of this. We're so afraid that it's going to change us, or that it's going to change your personality, or it's going to make you want to act on the thoughts. It doesn't work like that. It's going to make you a little more anxious in the beginning because your body's adjusting to it. You need to give it some time, about 6 to 8 weeks. If you feel like you're not getting that much better with ERP, you have to do medication with ERP. So by taking the meds, you're making ERP a little bit less intense. Sorry, I've been using that word a lot tonight. About 6 to 8 weeks is going to take to work. And if you feel it's not making that big of an adjustment for you, go back to your doctor, see if, he can up the dose a little bit, or maybe you want to try something else. There's so many things out there that you could use as an SSRI or SNRI that will really help you. So don't feel like just because one medication doesn't help you, that nothing will. I'm like so happy that you guys sent in all these comments, but oh my gosh, I have some. My OCD has changed themes. I was obsessed with sexual thoughts, and now I can't stop thinking about losing my mom, my sibling, and my own death. Like I said in the earlier question, I'm not sure if you saw it, honey, but OCD will constantly change themes. It doesn't matter what it is. It feels like it's losing its grip on one theme, so it wants to make you suffer. So it's going to switch to something else that it knows is going to hit you in the heart. And that's why I feel like OCD attacks the most caring people, because we would never ever do anything to harm anyone. And even though we're getting these thoughts, that doesn't mean anything about us as a human being. So just remember that the theme is irrelevant, and it doesn't matter who it attacks or what it attacks. It really all is just the same treatment in the end. OCD is attaching to seeing the same sequence of numbers everywhere. It keeps telling me there's meaning to them. Is this common? Okay, I'm not going to tell you if it's common, because that's reassurance, but I will tell you I used to see so many numbers. Okay, especially when I was scared of possession. Sorry, I don't mean to trigger anybody with that word, but I would see sixes everywhere, and I would freak out. There's no meaning to numbers. I mean, you know, I believe in angel numbers. I believe in good numbers, but I don't believe in bad numbers. OCD is just trying to find something else to latch to. One of my biggest things was I would not land on 666 ever. So one day I went to the store, and as an exposure, I made the total add up to 666. And I forced myself to not buy something else. And it was so flipping hard. But I did it, and I'm fine, and there's no meaning. So yes, I understand now. So I started a new relationship when there was a week or a period of time when I was perfectly good. I was happy joking around, but now that week has ended, I'm constantly trying to get that feeling back. Okay, you have to understand. I'm sorry, I have an itch in my nose. You have to understand that you're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad weeks. You're a human. We're all going to have bad days, OCD or not. My husband doesn't suffer from any anxiety disorders, and he has bad days. My kids don't have anxiety disorders, and they have bad days. We all have bad days, and we all kind of be like, oh, I wish I could go back to when I was feeling great again. It's not bad that you're feeling that way. Of course you want to go back to where you were feeling good and feeling great and happy, but you'll get back there again. Hi, hon. I'm not skipping any questions. I'm sorry, I have like 2,000 questions here, so I'm just trying to go through everything. What's the piece of advice you would give to your younger self dealing with OCD? To not be so hard on myself, to understand that it's okay to reach out for help when I need it, and that doesn't make me any weaker of a human being. How do I know for 100% sure that this thought is an intrusive thought? And how do I know I have to ignore it? Any thought can become intrusive. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to leave it there. I mean, there's really is nothing else left to do with it. You sit with the uncertainty, and it messes up your mood because you're sitting with the anxiety. That's what ERP is made to do, honey. So may not be what you want to hear, but you do have to sit with it. Sorry, I'm just trying to see what questions I can answer that I haven't answered already. Have you had PLCD as a theme? If so, did it go away after doing ERP? So I have it, but I know a lot of people, and actually one of my very dear friends has it, and it did get a lot better after doing ERP. You can't expect the theme to go away because, I still have themes that haven't gone away for me, so I just, like I said, I don't really like to label themes. It's really just thoughts. So you can't expect it to go away completely. OCD, like I said earlier, OCD will always be there. So, the intrusiveness of the thoughts lesson, if that's what you mean, I know that theme is very, very difficult, and I'm so sorry you struggle with that. If you do, I'm not sure if you're asking for yourself or someone else, but I'm sending so much love to you, and I'm sorry I couldn't help much more. I apologize, honey. Any OCD book recommendations? Oh, I love this question. So on my page, I actually have on my highlights a whole bunch of books that I recommend. I'll tell you a few of them that I remember. Brain Lock is great. I actually have them here. Overcoming harm thoughts. Let me see. Sorry, I'm going through my, and then everyday mindfulness for OCD. Those are a few of them. And then there's a book by Piero Chrissy as well. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it is on my, I think it's called Piero. It's on my highlights on my page. And my page is actually the name that's here, Obsessively Anxious. No question here. Just wanted to thank you. I love your Insta account. You always remind me that I'm not alone and we can all do ERP. Oh, I love that. Thank you, hon. I appreciate it. Let me see. I'm sorry that, I have to go through. Okay. I'm always looking for certainty if people judge me as stupid in conversations. Staying uncertain is hard because a little change in the tone of voice from the other person makes my OCD going wild. Any advice? If they don't like you, they don't like you. If they think you're stupid, then it's their loss. I used to be the same way, and I'm at the age now where if you like me, you like me, and if you don't, you don't. If you think I'm stupid, then you think I'm stupid. Um, Nothing I say or the tone of their voice is going to change how I am. And if they think I'm stupid, then they don't deserve to be a part of my life. Okay. Uh, Watched a documentary on fibromyalgia and was afraid I'd make myself get fibromyalgia. Girl, I have been there. So I don't mean this to sound harsh, but you are not that powerful. By watching something, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. And that was my biggest thing with possession, is that I was afraid that if I watched a certain show or thought of a movie, that all of a sudden that whatever happened in the movie would happen to me. If I was able to make things happen, then I'd be a millionaire right now. It doesn't work like that. I know it's hard to resonate our brains with that kind of thinking, especially when it feels so real. But you have to try to compulsively not tell yourself, that you're not that powerful, because it can. What really freaking sucks about OCD is that anything can become compulsive. So even when you say something to yourself, like, okay, here's a good one. With my schizophrenia theme, I would tell myself, well, if I was going nuts, I wouldn't. Well, I tell this to people. I didn't say it because I knew it was a compulsion. But like I used to hear people say, well, if I was crazy, then I wouldn't be realizing I was crazy. And it's like, that's a great point. But if you continue to tell yourself that, then it becomes compulsive. So you just kind of have to be careful. Can ERP not work for some people? I'm not really sure. I really only go by my own experience. I'm sure there are people that may be treatment resistant, but I mean, or they might have to work a little bit harder, but that doesn't mean anything. There's no timeline on how long ERP is going to take to work. We have to do ERP every day for the rest of our lives once we start, just to kind of maintain a sense of normalcy. So I don't know if ERP cannot work for some people. I would pray that it'd work for everybody. The thought of having to deal with PLCD for the rest of my life is beyond devastating. I actually like teared up reading this because I can't even imagine, but I felt the same way with schizophrenia OCD. I said to myself, I can't imagine living like this with this thought forever. And I'm tearing up, I'm sorry, but I don't even suffer from it anymore. And, I'm really happy you came on here because I want to let you know that there really is so much hope. It doesn't matter what the theme is. It doesn't matter what the thoughts are. You can recover. I promise you that. You really, really can. It may not seem possible, but you can. And I just want to give you a big hug right now. I hate taboo thoughts like being attracted to someone in your own family. They're so sickening and not true, but still make me so uncomfortable. Okay. I'm going to be really vulnerable with you guys. And this is an easy, I typed it on my page, but I've never actually said it out loud to anyone but my mom and my husband. My very first intrusive thought was me having a sexual thought about my mother. I was so scared. I was so scared. I had no idea what was going on. And I just called her sobbing. And I just said to her, I don't know what's wrong with me. I must be some kind of monster. What's wrong with me, Mom? And she calmed me down and said to me, everything's okay. Don't worry about it. Everyone has thoughts like that. It doesn't mean anything about you. My calming sense of force here. So yes, honey, I understand completely what you're going through with it. Really, really is so hard. But you have to understand that. Unfortunately, the reason why OCD is such a terrible disorder is because it attacks who you love the most in the world. So it could go after your mom, your dad, your kids, your brother, your sister, your grandparents, anybody that you love in your life. And it could also go after stupid shit. Sorry. It could go, it could attack a mailbox, for Christ's sake. I mean, it doesn't have any kind of boundaries on what it attacks. It just know that it can attack anything. Okay. I thought I was making a lot of progress after your therapy, but it is. My brother got COVID, and I'm right back to day one. So, you were never back to day one. You were never back to square one. What you learned in that year of therapy is giving you the tools that you need to get through this. You got to your worst point already. You not knowing what was going on. So you got through that, you go through the tools, and you get back to where you need to be. Because you're never ever going to be back to square one. Sorry, I can't tell anymore if they're thoughts or just rumination, if that makes sense. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. So thoughts are things that just pop into your head. And rumination is actually when you're focusing on the thoughts. You're trying to figure out why it's happening. You're trying to figure out what it means. Um, does it mean something about you? Basically, a self-analyzation within your head that's created a hell for yourself. Um, so thoughts are always going to be there, but rumination definitely calms down a lot once you start the proper treatment. And I saw your comment. Did you answer my question? I was actually waiting for you to come back online so that way I could answer your question. Thanks, Jesse. Unfortunately, there's nothing I could do to adjust it. This is just the feed. Sorry. Can OCD be genetic? I'm scared that I could possibly pass it on to my kids. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to know that. This is a great opportunity for you to sit with uncertainty. And if your kids do happen to have OCD, well, then they have the best mom that they can. You'll help them through everything. I tell my I've told myself a lot, if my kids happen to get OCD or some kind of anxiety disorder, well, and I know what they're going through and I can be there for them in every way possible. So, you know, that's the best way I try to think about it. This is a fantastic question. Why does the rumination thoughts feel worse and more consistent than the original thought? Because with the original thought, excuse me, with the original thought, it just popped into your mind. Now you're ruminating on everything that it could possibly be because of that thought. So absolutely, the rumination is going to be worse than the original thought, because if it weren't for the rumination, then you wouldn't really be worried about what the thought means. Okay, sorry guys. Okay. Suddenly having sexuality OCD has been devastating. As things have been progressing with me and my boyfriend, it's gotten worse. I always wanted to get married and have kids, now I'm doubting. So what I like to say to everybody is, don't ever let OCD stop you from living your life. If you want to get married, get married. If you want to have kids, you have kids. You can't wait for OCD to get 100% better before you start living. You know, being a mom and having kids is the best thing in the world. And that's all I ever wanted to be in life, was a mom. And I'll be damned if OCD was going to stop me from doing that. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what questions to answer. Last night, I was with my boyfriend and I could not stop thinking about my ex. Affected it since I started getting more intrusive thoughts about him. Okay, you started getting more intrusive thoughts about him because it came to your mind and it bothered you, because you're like, oh, I'm having sex with my boyfriend. Why is my ex popping? Because he's a part of your past. Really, it doesn't mean anything. It just happened to pop in and at a really shitty moment. Just like, oh, whatever. Yeah, I had heart my city and thought it would never go away, but it did. Recovery is possible, Franklin. Yes, it is. How to accept uncertainty about PLCD and fear of it ever being that person or acting out. Okay. Chelsea, first of all, I love you. Um, my fave on Instagram. So the reason why it's attacking POCD is because of your values, because you love children so much, you would die for them. So this is just another thing that it's attacking too. People with OCD do not act out on their intrusive thoughts. We are the least likely to ever Jesus, sorry. We are the least likely to ever act out on our intrusive thoughts. People who act out on things like, these psychopaths and mass murderers, they don't feel remorse. They don't feel anything, you know? So just, you feel this bad about having a thought, acting out, forget about it. You would never. Okay. I only have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to try to answer some more questions that I haven't gotten to yet. I'm so excited you guys sent all these into me. Hi, I'm from India and do not know English so much. How can I find a doctor? Okay, so go on NOCD, treatmyocd.com. They have wonderful therapists. I'm not sure about India. You can also go on to IOCDF. That's the International OCD website. To try to find a therapist. When you do find a therapist, I want you to make sure that they are certified in ERP. Do not be afraid to ask them questions about how they do their treatments, what it involves. ERP and CBT is under the umbrella of ERP. So, you just want to make sure that they practice those. You want to make sure that they're not saying, thought stopping, because you're not supposed to stop your thoughts. I just did a video not so long ago, maybe a few hours ago, saying things that an OCD therapist should never be saying to you, that they could recover you a certain amount of time, that they can completely stop your thoughts. These are things that OCD therapists should never be saying. So I wish you the best of luck and let me know how you're doing. Really, I don't know which types are worse. I suffer from so many different types. Me too. Really, I don't know if one type is worse than the other because it really just attacks what your values are. So, someone with, it's always, uh, it's always crazy to me. Like, I'll see someone with, because I suffered with the schizophrenia theme for a very, very long time. And I would see someone with like contamination theme, and I'd be like, oh my God, I wish I had contamination theme. And then I got a contamination. And I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could just go back to a schizophrenia theme. Like, it's like you always wish for the theme that you don't have. It's craziness. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. A really good schizophrenia ERP is the movie Fear of Rain. It's quite scary. I saw that. Yes, it is scary, but that's actually one of my exposures. So very, very happy that you read that. I was saying my contamination OCD will trigger awful violet thoughts and so on. Okay, and if it does, that's okay. That's basically what ERP is. You do something and it triggers a thought, and then you sit with that thought. For me, my suicide OCD, one of the things was that I'm sorry, just read the questions. Okay. One of the things was I was always afraid that I'd like throw myself down the stairs or something because that was a thought that came into my mind. So I'd always be afraid of that. Like, what happens if I ever did that, which I would never, ever do. So I would be afraid to stay home by myself. So my exposure was staying home by myself. And guess what? Completely over that theme. All right. All right, guys. Let's see. If there's any dust on the counters, I freeze up and sit down, panicking. I will sob over dust, feel like I'm walking the floor during I don't want to walk around. Well, then maybe a good ERP for you would be walking around, letting your feet get dirty, and sitting with the anxiety that, it's okay if it's, not okay that it's contaminated, but, I walk around with bare feet all the time, and I used to have terrible contamination issues. I would have to wash my kids' bottles out like 8 or 9 times to make sure that there wasn't any soap in them. So I totally get your concerns, but ERP really would work in this situation. My current OCD theme I've been obsessed with is having dementia. It's horrible and I feel stuck. What could help? I had that. I didn't have not dementia. I had that theme. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but yes, dementia sucks, but let's say you worry about this all this time. I don't know how old you are, but let's say you worry about it. And then you get into your 60s, and then you get into your 70s and your 80s and your 90s. Pray to God. And you don't ever get dementia. So you spend all this time worrying over something that never happened. And how much time did you lose? That's how I like to think of things. I see a lot of people saying this is the last time they're posting this. I'm really sorry, guys. I literally have about 3,000 questions that I'm trying to go through. I'm sorry that I can't get to every single one. I have OCD about constantly thinking, does my partner love me and do I truly love them? And I'm constantly questioning, why do I love them and about their good and bad traits. Right? That sounds like relationship OCD. You're constantly going to be trying to find things that's good with them, that's bad with them. You're going to try to be finding a reason to break up with them because you think they're not the right ones. We all take gambles in life. We all, pray that we meet the love of our lives, which thankfully I did, and that we're happily with them ever after. Sometimes things don't go right. And, you just hope for the best and do everything that you can to make sure that, you guys live a beautiful, happy life. I feel like I'm pulling away from my boyfriend. I'm not interested in him because of my anxiety. I just don't know how I'm feeling right now, and it's really scary. I love him so much. So anxiety is, it's really hard. OCD made me feel like I was like not numb to my emotions, but I felt like I was always pulling away because I didn't want my husband to get involved in it because I didn't want him to suffer. And when really all he wanted to do was help me. So there's no issue with you asking him to help you, just as long as you're not asking for reassurance or compulsions, because then all that's doing is feeding into the cycle. If you have time, what is reassurance and why is it bad? So basically what reassurance is like me going up to, I'll have an intrusive thought, me going up to my husband, telling him my thought, and asking him if that's okay. There's no such thing as good or bad thoughts. That's only the labels that we give them. Um, you can't control your thoughts, you can only control your actions. So by asking him if it's good or bad, I'm giving power to my thoughts when I'm not supposed to do that. Asking someone else if they've had my theme, if they've had this thought, when it doesn't matter if I'm the only one out of how many billion people are in this world if I've had that thought, because it doesn't matter. So by stopping reassurance, you're allowing yourself to just be present with your thoughts and allowing yourself to just be like, you know what? If I have a thought about this and I have a thought about this, it doesn't have to mean anything to me. Okay. I have about 2 minutes left. So again, I'm sorry that if I didn't get to everybody's questions, I really apologize. Okay, I'm gonna get to this because Lucas, thank you so much for bringing this up. I have a great example for disease OCD. I was really scared about getting COVID, even not scared that I would die or everybody in my family would die. And I got COVID and nothing happened. So a lot of times, OCD not a lot of times, 99% of the time, OCD makes things so much worse than what they really are. I would be watching a show and I would think I'd get this thought in my head, and then all of a sudden it would go spiraling out of control. And then after a while, I'd sit there and be like, wow, that wasn't even remotely as bad as I thought it would be. Like, I'd be, okay, I'd get my vaccine. Like, I was watching a show. That's what I was talking about. Sorry. I was watching a show about the vaccinations. And here I am building up everything that could possibly go wrong in my head about the vaccines. And I ended up getting the vaccines. And I'm fine. But yet OCD made me feel like, oh my God, what if you get these horrible side effects? What if they never go away? What if you die? I'm here and I'm fine. It's just OCD sucks. All right. This I'm going to answer one more question. All right. Okay. Do you have health OCD advice? I ruminate constantly. I can't tell what's a real physical sensation or if it's my OCD causing it. So this is a tough one because you can go running to the doctors every single time you have a new sensation. But you have to understand that if you really feel like you're in danger, like if you're having heart issues, then you do need to go see a doctor. And if the doctors come back to you and tell you everything is fine, then just take it for what it's worth, trust them, and trust that it's just your anxiety. Anxiety can have some really, really crazy manifestations of itself. The chest tightness and the heart beating fast, the heavy breathing while you're walking. I've had so many migraine headaches. There's been so many times I've been in the store and I felt like, oh my God, this is it. This is going to be the end of it. You know, um, this is going to kill me today. So you just have to, like I said, if you're really concerned, go to the doctors. And if they tell you that it's nothing, then just trust that it's your OCD. Right, this is the last question because this is a really good one. Can OCD obsessions be reasonable to other people? I've told my husband my OCD obsessions, and he does not have any type of anxiety disorder. And he said to me, everybody, I've had thoughts like that. My mom told me she's never had any kind of anxiety disorder. She's like, I've had thoughts like that. It's not the thoughts that are the problem. Obsessions can be about anything. It can attach to anything. So, I mean, yeah, I guess they can be reasonable to other people, but I don't need to find out if they're reasonable to other people because they don't matter. All right, guys, I just hit the 1 hour mark. So like I said, I'm so sorry if I couldn't get to all of your questions. There were so many. I was really surprised by how many people came on here and sent me in questions. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sorry if I was a little out of it tonight. I've been fighting a cold for about a week now. No, it's not COVID. I took a test. So I apologize if I don't see my upbeat, perky self. But if you want, follow me over on my Instagram page, Obsessively Anxious. I appreciate all the support. Thank you again for coming in and asking all these questions. And I hope I helped a little bit. I hope you guys have a wonderful night and a wonderful rest of your week. And remember, OCD, You can recover. So please don't ever think that you can't. Don't ever think that you're the exception and that you can't be helped. There's always help out there for you. All right? Bye, guys.